Welcome everybody to Brazilian Kitchen. My name is Pedro and I'm your host for today's recipe. Today you're gonna learn how to make pão francês. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, this recipe is very challenging and I had to try 4 times before I got it right. But don't worry, I'm gonna give you all the tips and tricks that you need to get it right in the first time, alright? So if you haven't tackled your big quarantine challenge yet, this is gonna be it. I want you to make this recipe and I want you to tag us on Instagram. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video. Alright? This recipe has a lot of different names in Brazil. Some people know it by pão francês, some people know it by pão de sal, média, cacetinho. There's a lot of different names in Brazil for this recipe. So I want you to comment down below if you know a different name and where you heard it from. Let's see the ingredients. 330 grams of flour, 200 milliliters of water, 4 grams of yeast, 8 grams of salt, 4 grams of sugar, and 14 grams of unsalted butter. The first step to make our French roll is we need to create a sponge. And for that, we're gonna be using 30 milliliters of water that we have warmed up according to the specifications of the yeast. So if you read the yeast case, it's gonna say how much you have to heat the water. So in my case, it was 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So I just heat the water in the microwave for about 15 seconds and that did the trick. We're also gonna use 30 grams of flour and all of the yeast. Now we're gonna cover it with a damp towel and set it to rest for about 30 to 60 minutes. I'm gonna place it in a warm place like the microwave or the oven. And then when it's done, I'm gonna show you guys how it should be, the texture. Guys, we can see the texture that we have a couple of holes here, like air has come into the sponge. So this is the texture that we're looking for. It's kind of higher in the middle, and if it starts to decrease in the middle, it's going to lose strength and your bread's not going to grow enough. After 30 minutes have gone by, you have to check your sponge every once in a while. We checked with every 10 minutes and at minute 50 it was good to go. And after we have this texture, we're gonna start adding the rest of the ingredients. So we're gonna add the flour, the sugar, the salt, and finally the water, which you're gonna add little by little. So we're gonna add a little, mix, and then we're gonna add more. As you guys can see, we still don't have a single uniform dough, so I'm gonna add a bit more water to it. We can see that now I have one dough, but it's still too dry, so I'm gonna add the rest of the water and start mixing by hand. Now I'm gonna add the butter. So I'm gonna knead and incorporate the butter into our dough. It's gonna be messy for a while, but it's gonna get better. Guys, it's important that you use unsalted butter because I used salted butter when I was trying this recipe and everything became just too salty. If all you have in your house is salted butter, use it less salt. Use it like 6 grams of salt or something like that. Guys, if you have never kneaded a dough before, what I'm doing is basically I'm pressing and spreading, then I bring it all back together and I do it again. I'm gonna keep doing this until we have the right texture that I'm gonna show you in a moment. This is the texture that we're looking for, so we can pull the dough and we see that it's not breaking easily and that it also has a very elastic surface. After kneading for 15 minutes, I saw that the texture was not quite there yet, so I left the dough resting for 5 minutes and it just got into this perfect texture that you just saw. We're gonna leave our dough to rest for 15 minutes. Every time you put the dough to rest, you have to cover it, otherwise the dough will get dry and will not be good in the final result. Guys, we just waited 15 minutes and our dough is ready for the first modeling. We're gonna take it out and we're gonna split into 6 different parts. Guys, I'm gonna take the dough off the bowl, but without pressing it too much, so be careful. I'm gonna spread my dough and then I'm gonna cut it in 6 different pieces. Always use a tool like this or a knife so you don't tear the dough, okay? Now that I have 6 pieces, I'm gonna use a scale and try to leave it the same or similar sizes. I have here about 540 grams of dough, so I'm gonna try to leave each bread about a 90 grams. Now that we have similar sized dough, I'm gonna make a little ball so we can start doing the pre-modeling. I'm just gonna make an arch with my hand and start rolling the dough without pressing it. To open the dough, just press it with your fingers, but remember to be gentle. And then roll it. Roll and press. I'm gonna leave it here to rest for another 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, we're gonna model it. So we're gonna get our dough, and the bottom part that has the stitch, we're gonna put it into the top. And we're gonna open the dough again, the same way we did before. And we're gonna roll it again. We have to put pressure here so the top part is as smooth as possible. And now I'm gonna roll it, but arching my hand so the top will still be higher than the edges. I'm greasing the baking tray so the bread won't stick to it. I'm gonna model all of the dough and I'm gonna put it here with 2 fingers so we can let it grow. Now that we shaped all of our bread, I'm gonna cover it again and let it rest for another hour. While we let our bread rest or our dough rest, I'm gonna preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember to take the dough off the stove because it might get too hot. Guys, with 15 minutes to go to put our dough in the oven, we're gonna add some boiling water because this kind of bread, it needs a lot of steam going off. So I have a baking tray here that I'm gonna put into the oven, the lowest possible, and then I'm gonna pour water into it. We now have 5 minutes to go before we put our dough into the oven, and I'm gonna uncover them so the top can get a little dry and will make it easier for us to cut. Look how beautiful and big they are. Remember we had 2 fingers between them before, they just grew close together. Guys, now that it's time for our bread to go into the oven, we're gonna grab our sharpest knife and we're gonna make a single 45-degree angle cut into the breads. Now splash some water into the bread and put it into the oven. It's been 15 minutes that the bread is in the oven, and now I'm gonna take off the water and turn the baking tray. Be careful because this is very hot. At the 15-minute mark, if you want to take some to freeze, it's the time to do it. So take it off, let it cool for a while, and then you can freeze it. We're gonna let it there for 10 more minutes, and that should be enough to get the golden crust that we love. We're gonna leave our breads to rest in a cooling rack for a while. Our French roll is ready, but before we try it, don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram, right? So let's do this. Now we're gonna spread some butter on the bread. Guys, this was French roll. I hope you have liked it, and I will see you soon on the next video. Até logo!